Okay, so how long were you in boot camp for?
Uh, 60 days.
60 days, and then where'd you go after boot camp?
Got leave, 5-day leave. Bob and I did, and we went out there. A troop train took us out there, but we got back. Why? We went home. We had 5 days. Then we trucked us to Lincoln. Then in Lincoln we caught the troop train and went through North Platte, stopped off the USO there and said goodbye to the girls. And
That's where that big cantina was, right?
Mm-hmm. And on to Farragut, Idaho. That was coming off on our boot leave. So we got back to Farragut, Idaho, and we had the OGU, outgoing unit. And Bob was always first one there. Every time we lined up for shots, kerplunk, Bob would be on the floor. He'd pass out. So they'd pick him up, because it's B and A, see? Bob Akins. So when we got out there, I went to OGU right away. And they sent him to a school in down south. I don't know whether it was South Carolina or it was a state down there, not warm. Well, I went right to OGU, and I was supposed to be there 2 weeks, and I was there 2 days, and they put me on a heavy cruiser, CA-32, USS New Orleans. CA-32 was a number on the ship. The C stands for, no, it was AC. The CA. C stands for cruiser, and A stands for attack force.
It was a bad mofo, wasn't it?
Huh?
It was a bad mofo in the war, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And so I went on that, and they sent me right out to sea, and Bob got 2 months, or two and a half months of schooling in diesel mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all that time I was out overseas seeing action,
Mm-hmm.
and he was back in the States. And when he graduated, he was a cook. He got put on a goddamn little OLST, landing ships, tanks, round bottom, and oh, they were bastards to be on. And he was a cook. So I was out there, got down in the Philippines in December, and we got in the big typhoon they had out there. I guess that's what you call them. They lost quite a few ships, small ships in it, and I thought any time the way we was always underwater, rocking and rolling, everything shut off, hot, puking. And when the old ship would stand straight up and come straight down and pop and crack, and everybody was sick. Well, we was up 2 days at that, and then we finally got out of it. You couldn't run the ship was all dogged down. So after it got calm enough, we cranked her up and we got out of there. We should have been out of there. They told us to get out of there, go someplace else in the Philippines, and get out of it, but we didn't make it. So then we seen action in Lady first, and what the heck time? That was in December. And then we sailed around the Philippines there, seeing action, and I went through 2 major battles on the ship there, out sailing around, and we got first put us with the 3rd, assigned us to the 3rd Fleet, which was the aircraft carriers. Well, we went through one big major battle with them. The Japs damn near demolished us. but we beat them. And we sent us around back to the Philippines and took us out of the 3rd Fleet and put us in the 7th Fleet, which was invasion fleet, task force, you know. So we went around picking up action there. 2 actions, and I went through the 2nd major battle there in the Philippines. Then they took us off on April Fool's Day of 45, at 3 o'clock in the morning. We pulled into Okinawa and didn't drop anchor, and we sat out there and cruised around, and we shelled the beach all night long. Then after that at night, we'd shoot star shells over there.
So they could see.
Yeah.
When you say they shelled, how big were the shells? What was the caliber of the ammunition you guys are firing with?
Okay. We had the little 20s. They were about that big around and about that long.
So about a foot long?
Yeah. And they were good for close range, but hell, this is like peeing out of a boot. It really wasn't too good. This was close range. And one man, he strapped himself in that, and he 100 to 360 and straight up or down, and he manned the 20 millimeters. Okay, then you went to we had 24 Marines on the ship, and 24 Marines, I think they had 2 officers. I don't think they had anything higher than a captain. Probably they had a lieutenant and an ensign in there that took care of the 24 Marines, and all they did was take care of the old man, run messages for him, and protect him.
Who's the old man?
The captain of the ship. And that's all the Marines did, except when we had air raids. The next big, best thing was 40 millimeter turrets. Went completely around, up and down, all electric and hydraulic. And the Marines manned them. And they had a shell in them about like that, and about that long. And when them some guns went off, it was just something. And they manned the 40s. Well, they were pretty good at close range on aircraft. But when the old Jap Bettys come in, clear up their...
What's a Jap Betty?
Bomber. Okay. They'd be up there pretty high. And the only thing that could get up there and get them was the 5-inch, which they had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-inch on each side, on the port side and the starboard side. And the Navy manned them, and they weighed 75 pounds a shell.
Jesus, that's huge.
I know, they were about that big. Well, they must have been about a 5-inch anyhow, or 6-inch. And they loaded them by hand. Sent them up from the shell department down there, the ammo department. Sent them up by, I think it was a chain, brought them up. And each man stand there and grab that 75 pound and pop her down in the cradle of the 5-inch, and they fired it. And it was all directed from up above in fire control. And that had the fire control, the old man's quarters, and then the signal bridge. And that's where I was at. I was a signalman striker, and I was dumb. I wasn't a very good speller, and we had a crew of 1,400, and I was the youngest one. And so when these old 5-inch went to work, if we couldn't reach them, we had a banker who was the owner of the Syracuse Bank, which is a fairly good-sized bank for Syracuse. It was a hell of a lot bigger bank than Weeping Water. And he was drafted. He was a farmer, and went to school and got money enough to buy this Syracuse bank out.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a fighter pilot on. You know what a P-38 is?
Mm-hmm. The two.
Right.
Evelyn Sharp from Ord would fly those from bases, transporting them in the United States.
Well, he was the head pilot, the group commander. Real nice guy, but imagine him being. He was an attorney first.
Mm-hmm.
Then he bought the bank, and then they
Mm-hmm.
drafted him in the Navy, or he enlisted, and he was a colonel. He was the head of the squadron there on the islands. Well, when we couldn't get the Betty stop from where we at, they'd phone into they had an air base somewhere around there, and they'd come up, and when the Bettys would see them coming, boy, they got the hell out of there, because these P-38s were twice as fast and could go up there after them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. So when you guys got to Okinawa, you got there in the middle of the night, you started firing fairly immediately when you rolled in?
Sure.
Okay. What did it look like when the sun came up the next day? Was it just completely demolished, or was it...
Well, you couldn't see for so doggone. It was some lowland and a lot of, bluffs, or kind of like around here, only heavy with force, you know.
The Japanese were holed up in those bluffs. And,
Yep, and they had caves in there, and around the beach there was all these big iron, I don't know what the hell you'd call them, but they're just like a snow fence, and hell, you couldn't get through them. And we'd shoot and shoot and shoot, and then finally we'd get a dozer in there, and after they lumbered them up, the dozers would, but the dozers had so much fire coming down from the hills on them. Mm-hmm. They did a good job, and they lost a lot of people there. When the ground force come in, the infantry and the artillery and stuff, they had to go, couldn't get these ships clear up.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them waded in to water up, and I don't know how the goddamn tanks and the jeeps and stuff got there, but they got there on the island. But man, they killed so many that was up there hidden. And when we'd send our, when they'd call in for the 5-inch to shell the beach and hold it, forts over there holding, while we had a Goonie bird. It was a Grumman fighter plane with guns on it, and the wings, you know. Instead of having landing gear, it had pontoons,
Mm-hmm.
one big one, and then one on each wing.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd catapult that off, and he'd go over on the island, fly around, and be the spotter for the big guns.
Mm-hmm.
They'd communicate back and forth. And it wasn't like now, where you find a target where you was on target. Well, we was always hit and miss. And he'd direct our fire, and when he got done, and time for him, he was getting low on fuel, they'd tell the signalmans to run the bean rag up. It was a tenet about that wide and about 3 times as long. And that was a bean rag. It was red. And when I bring him in, they run that up. Then he'd be up circling around. Well, as soon as that went up, why, he'd come down and lit. And they'd slip the ship sideways, smooth wake, and he'd tackle up alongside the ship, and they'd throw the hook out, turn the crane out, hoist him aboard, set him back on the catapult, and got him ready to go back out again.
Throw it like a big giant hand, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna cut this clip here, and then we'll get into Okinawa here shortly. Okay.
Wait.